Fellas, we're back here today at Hanford Auto Supply with the Y-Block guy, Tim McMaster. And for all of you who've been following the build of the 342 cubic inch Y-Block Ford V8, been here on YouTube and on my website for the last year or so. We finally got some parts that have come in, but before we do that...
Y-Block guy, that's me.
There he is, right here, Tim McMaster himself. So we want to make sure that we kind of review a little bit for you and let you know what we've done up to this point. So Tim, talk to us first about the meat and why we have a Y-Block, but what did we do to the block, Tim, to prep before we even get into the rotating assembly?
Well, I guess to start with, you brought a block that you had already had all machined to build a 312, or it was going to be a 292 with a 312 crank.
Right.
And I guess I opened the can of worms about more cubic inches and more power. So we took a perfectly good machine block and bored it out even more to 3 7/8. We took your 312 crank, which I had had for a couple years, and I'd already ground the mains down to fit in the 292 block. Right. But then we went and offset ground it to a 2-inch crank pin and gave it a 3 5/8 stroke. So with the 3 7/8 bore and 3 5/8 stroke, we get 342 cubic inches out of it.
Well, there you go. There's the recipe. So, and so Tim, so right now where we're at, we've got the block completely prepped. I think we
decked it, line honed it. I think we're gonna run ARP studs in the main.
Yes, we are.
A little bit stronger bottom end. For anybody out there that's building a stock engine or a mildly hopped up engine, just know that the Ford bolts are plenty strong enough. The Y-Block bottom end is a strong bottom end to work with, but for a little improved support, the ARP studs work really well.
Good. Yeah. All right, so Tim, obviously the timeline here that has kind of stretched over a couple of years, that's on me. Some of that's just been my move out here to California.
You're busy.
Some other things I've got going on in church work. You guys know I'm the hot rod reverend, a lot of stuff going on, and that's fine. But one of the holdups this past year has just been trying to get rods. And Tim, there's obviously in this recipe and makeup particular pieces of the rotating assembly that we feel like we need to have for this performance build that are a necessity. So walk us through real quick. Talk to us about OEM Ford rods for the Y-Block, and then we'll get into the connecting rod we're going to be using for this build.
Okay, well, we'll just do all this right now. Rods are a big deal. Okay, so this is an EBU rod, and I've heard a few guys badmouth these things as being weak. Well, weak compared to what? They're every bit as strong as, say, a small block Chevy rod. They work fine. If anybody has ever had a bent one, there was probably some abuse involved, or maybe some hydraulicking, or somewhere down the road something happened to make it bend or break. But they don't just break because you're running your engine. You have to do something wrong to do that. Now, that being said, we have the ECZ rod, which, as far as strength goes, the size of the beam, they're about the same, but the ECZ rod is a little bit shorter. These are 6-inch 312.
There you go.
And a 292. And the 312 rod is 6-inch 250 or 254, if you want to split hairs, but 6 1/4 inch. Now, this rod here is a C1 TE. They also have a C2 AE, which is basically the same rod. Now, you can notice that the beam on it is not considerably bigger, but definitely bigger. And these are a truck rod. And when you're doing a mild build and you're not stroking or offset grinding your crank, these are probably one of the better rods to put in. Certainly when you're doing the 312 crank and the 292 block, I like these rods. They are actually a little bit shorter than your standard 292 rod. So when you put the longer stroke, sometimes the combination will come out to where your piston is 0 deck height using this rod with a 312 crank.
Yeah.
And again, a stronger rod, good combination for that 312 crank in the 292 block. Now we're going to put a 312 crank in your 292 block,
Right.
but we have offset ground the crank for more stroke. And when you do that, you're making the journal smaller. So we go to a 2-inch crank pin, and that's where these rods come in. And these are brand new H-beam rods from John Mummert. He's getting them from a different company than he used to. They look same quality as the old ones, if not better. Nice looking rod. They're bush that does have a 912 pin.
Right. Yeah.
And these are set up for a 2-inch crank pin on the crank, and they run a Buick bearing. It's a CB610.
And Tim, I think in the last video, we actually had a set of those bearings out, kind of showing the guys the part numbers and different things.
Well,
so,
we can show them again.
Yeah, not a problem.
Blake, the cameraman, follow me over here. We do have an extensive collection of rod bearings here at Hanford Auto Supply. These happen to be the Buick ones, a CB610. Clevite is our favorite brand here for bearings. Some people use Kings. There's nothing wrong with King bearings. If you buy some budget-minded bearings like Engine Tech, I buy these because they are King bearings with a different label on them.
There you go.
Oh, and I also am a big advocate for buying new old stock. Some of the new stuff, not quite the quality that they used to make. Overseas stuff, we won't get into countries of origin. Some are good, some not so good. A lot of people have political beliefs that keep you from buying overseas product. That's fine, whatever you believe in. But I like new old stock because the quality of stuff 50, 60, 70 years ago is unmatched today. Hey, got some goodies here.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. A fellow in Lorena, Texas sent these to me. Who do you think that might be?
What's Ted got for you?
Well, I got a couple engines going together, and the guys want something a little better than stock rockers. So they're Harlan Sharp 1:6-to-1 ratio roller rockers. Now, if you see the towers on them, that's a stock tower.
Yeah, that's like a stock tower.
So these are set up to run on a cast iron head.
Wow.
And you know, you save a little bit on friction with these rockers, but the big deal is the ratio, because they are 1.6-to-1, so you get a little extra lift out of them. And boy, they're almost like they're like engine jewelry.
Is this inside? Is this the idea? Is it a bushing? Is it a needle?
No, it's just a bushing.
It's just a bushing.
There's
okay.
not a roller in there.
Right.
But Ted actually puts these together. He used to just sell the rockers and let the customers put them together. But if you look in here, zoom in close here. Anybody who has built a Y-block, and I see this question all the time, isn't that tip supposed to be centered on the valve? Well, it sure would be better if they were centered on the valve. But Ted goes the extra mile when he puts these together, and he shims them to make that roller hit right on the valve stem instead of off to the side. So a necessity in a Y-block build? No. A nice little addition? Yes. And doggone it, they're pretty.
Yeah. And guys, notice here, this is already pressurized. This is already sealed and ready to go. I know that's a big controversy among some of the Y-block crowd, but you know what? You're just fine doing it.
Yeah. I'll tell you this, as far as pressurizing goes, they still oil okay when they have the overflow tube. Yeah. And it's not a bad idea to pinch those down to get a little extra oil. Everybody's worried about getting that oil to the gear on the distributor or the timing chain. Go ahead if you want. There's plenty of oil sloshing around in there. But the big thing that we want to do to these is when you're doing your
Yeah.
rocker shafts, put a groove across the oil hole to spread that oil out. Because I've seen rocker shafts that might have a few thousand miles on them, and they're starting to gall the rockers already.
Yep.
But to get that oil spread out to the full width of the rocker, it's a real good idea.
Well, and just so the guys know, I have purchased the Clevite brand
Yeah.
too. But yeah, we're good to go with that. Exactly what the item number is
Yeah,
there.
and
So.
Clevite traditionally has always been the top-notch bearing.
Okay.
I've had some people actually tell me that they've been hearing that King bearings are better than Clevites nowadays. I have not seen really anything that's that different in the quality
Yeah.
of either one. They're equal, but
Okay.
I prefer Clevite.
Sure. All right, so Tim, next up, I'm assuming, and again, guys, this is me talking from the guy in the garage at home that
Just
wants to
let
assemble
everybody
this.
know that we all have our own opinions, and
Sure we do.
This is something I'd like to clarify. There are different ways to do things.
There sure are.
And not all of them are right, but not all of them are wrong. And there are different ways to do things. So you do something your way. If it works for you, that's great. I do things my way.
And,
So
and
far,
they're proven on the road in stock form, truck form, hauling, and proven on the salt flats and at the dirt or the sand, the lake bed at El Mirage. And certainly we understand it. So Tim, just the next question here. I'm assuming in this process, for me to get all these parts back and assemble this in my garage at home, talk to us about how important it is to balance a rotating assembly.
well,
Let's get into that.
let's do that, especially when you're putting modified parts in.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've just given some extra stroke to this crankshaft.
Right.
We're putting a rod in it that is different than stock. They weigh less. The pistons we're going to be using, these are what we're going to be running in a Daniels engine. They're forged. They use a very narrow metric ring. This is your standard stock Y-Block piston. And you can see, and if you had them in your hand, you can tell the weight difference. But anytime you're changing the weight, this is considered reciprocating weight. The big end on the rod is rotating weight. And again, you can probably tell there's a bit of a weight difference between these connecting rods. So we're going to want to do what you call a static balance. That's where all the pistons weigh the same. We weigh the connecting rod on a beam, so you get a different weight for the small end and the large end. Because again, this is rotating, this is reciprocating.
Okay, yeah.
And then once we know all those weights and we have the ring weight, the bearing weight, again, reciprocating, rotating. There's a formula and we work up a bob weight, and that represents all these different weights. There's a formula for the reciprocating, the rotating we use. Reciprocating is 100%, rotating is 50% on most V8s. On high performance engines, we do what we call an overbalance.
Okay.
And usually we do a 52% on the rotating. Now we have this bob weight and you connect it to the crankshaft, each rod journal, and then we spin it up. Machine's calibrated at 500 RPM. And the computer does the magic. It tells me where to remove weight. But you will see a considerable difference when you are changing these parts. Different parts, different stroke, you know, the outside diameter where it's rotating. And it is an absolute necessity to balance a project like that. Okay, now let's go back to this or these. This is all stock, and you're rebuilding your engine. You bore it, you put different pistons in. Well, that's not the piston that came from the factory.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
And they're going to weigh a little bit different than your original pistons. Can you build an engine without balancing it when you're just doing a stock engine? Yeah, most people get away with it. Most shops don't balance every engine. Here we do, because it's just that much better. And it will make them smoother. it will make them last longer, and it'll make them perform better.
Yeah.
Balancing is very important, and that's why we do it.
And Tim, I'm going to assume too, in the higher RPM ranges, for some of us that are going to wind it up, we're going to get over 5, we're going to get 6, whatever. It's even more important, correct, that we.
Yeah, and that's where the
overbalance.
overbalance comes in on high
Right.
performance engines. If you're going to be constantly running at, I run my land speed car at 7,000 RPM
Right.
for 5 miles,
Yeah.
and you want that. You want that.
And
smooth.
that engine stays together just fine. I'll leave a link in the description for a great video, or actually just some clips on that Roadster going across the salt flats. It's a great,
What do you think of that piston?
wow. Man, what is,
Okay, so I've been playing with new toys here. This is out of a 360 cubic inch engine. This is out of a 350 cubic inch engine. Difference is this engine has 4 of these and 8 of those, so they're about the same displacement. But yeah, this is a hobby that's new and dear to my heart because we're getting into aviation now.
oh, there we go.
This is out of a Lycoming IO 360. So it's a 4-cylinder aircraft engine that runs continuously at 2,400 RPM. It makes 200 horsepower at 2,700 RPM, and it'll run that way all day long.
Wow.
The
That's pretty good.
Being an aircraft, though, as it goes up
Sure.
in altitude, the horsepower drops
Right.
off.
Sure.
So, anyway, just had to give a plug for the aviation industry.
Oh, sure. All right. Well, Tim, thanks for your time today. And guys, thanks for joining us. We'll have more footage here and more updates on the 342 build. Hanford Auto Supply, Tim McMaster, the Y-Block guy. You guys stay tuned to Hot Rod Reverend. We'll see you.